because we always have some global themes for Centers for Spiritual Living. And it's about honoring the past, honoring and standing on the shoulders of what has been before in the world, in our teaching, and in our personal lives. And then rising up and moving into the vision for what we want. And this year's been wild, hasn't it? Oh my gosh, are y'all still have you recovered? Are you recovering from it? What we've been going through with everything from politics to pandemic and beyond, it's been a lot of change. A lot of change. And so we've all been called, as those who are getting grounded even more and more deeply into our spiritual faith and understanding, we've been called to rise up all through this and try to stay in that place of wholeness, right? I want to start by just honoring and acknowledging what has made a difference in my life, and that is this philosophy, this teaching. Dr. Ernest Holmes had an 8th grade education, and yet during his lifetime he received 27 honorary doctorates.
Wow.
Yeah, big wow. And you know why? It's because they called him the question mark. He was always curious, he was always reading, he was always learning, he was always wanting to understand and discover life, what's life all about, and spirituality. As a very young man, he read Emerson for the first time. He said that he'd had a throat problem before reading Emerson. And Emerson, just, if you've read Emerson, he says, speak your truth today like fireballs or cannonballs or something. I think it's cannonballs. Strongly speak your truth. And if you change your mind tomorrow, speak your truth, tomorrow's truth tomorrow. But today, be true to who you are and what you know, right? And he said that his throat problem completely went away after reading Emerson. You can see why, right? The other thing that he did was, his foundation is really Christianity. We are way beyond that because he also studied all the world's religions. But when he was young, his mother had a heart problem, heart condition. And he studied the teachings in the New Testament of Jesus' healings, how Jesus healed. And I'm going to read you something from Mark, from the Bible, what the heck. Mark 11, verses 22 through 24. This is what Jesus was saying to the people. And of course, we know these words were written 60 to 100 years after he was gone. But this is a powerful statement. And these are the kind of words that Ernest Holmes took to heart in praying for his mother's healing. Have faith in God. I tell you the truth. If anyone says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen, it will be done for him. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. And so he prayed for his mother's healing, and she was healed and went on to live another 50 or so years. That's what we're about. That's what we teach. And so when people ask you, what is that church over there? What do you believe when you go there? What do they teach? Do you all have good answers? Simple, 1, 2, 3, this is what we believe? I'll tell you my elevator speech. And it does depend on who I'm talking to, the words that I use. But 3 things just always come to my mind. The foundation of this philosophy is, first of all, there's one power, one presence. I have some old 45 records that my mother gave me. They're recordings of Ernest Holmes' radio show. And every one of them starts out by this deep voice. I don't know if it's his or someone else is saying, there's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. There might be a few more words in there, but that's basically what it says. And the truth is, we're using it all the time. So this power, what is this? I know that Ernest Holmes deepened over time that real awareness and depth of spirit. You could see in the program today, the very front page, that beautiful call to the soul of truth. If you read the signs of my textbook, you just get that he was in harmony, and he knew his own soul was part of that. So number 1, God is all there is. One power, one presence, not 2. There's no devil, right? And number 2, the second thing is that we are part of that. It's not like God is in us like a raisin in a bun or like ink in a pen. It's like all that is divine. All of me is a part of that. It's more like I'm the wave in the ocean, or as we've heard, the drop in the ocean. The essence of the divine is always present. I'm just a unique expression of that, right? The third thing is the power of faith. that it is done unto us as we believe, and as that was stating that quote from the Bible. Our consciousness creates our reality. The Dhammapada, sayings of Buddha, and I didn't plan to put this in here, I might be reading the right thing, but it says something like, our thoughts of today create our world of tomorrow. As the cart follows the horse, if we think negative thoughts today, we're going to have a bet this is not what Buddha said, but something like this. But tomorrow will be not a good day. If we have positive thoughts today, we will create amazing things tomorrow. This is a teaching that's been, through the ages, known and experienced by humankind. And so we are bringing it alive in our own lives and in the world. And I think that we, each one of us here today, make such a difference by having that as our foundation. I want to speak about our personal past, because if our consciousness today right now creates what happens tomorrow for ourselves and the world, really, where are we? We use that word consciousness a lot. I like to describe my personal sort of consciousness. I'll just use that word to describe what I'm talking about today as everything that's ever happened to me, the good stuff, the accomplishments, the joys, and the challenges, and the pain. And in there are some limiting beliefs about who I am, what's possible for me. In there are some wonderful things I know about myself and my faith in myself. And there are some things that are simply not true. And so our spiritual experience is to, and work really, is to begin to clean that out. Coming to something like this, listening to those words and embodying them it's like a huge jar of muddy water, where there's some particles of stuff that limit us, that keep us in a sense of not being completely whole. And as we begin to pour more and more clear water in, those particles begin to flow out of the top of that jar. My consciousness becomes more and more clear, and I can stand in a place of peace even when there's tribulation around me, because I'm grounded in the highest truth about who I am. We as Centers for Spiritual Living are here to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And I have to start by awakening myself to that, right? And I'll tell you how I know when there's something I need to work on. It's when my buttons get pushed. Yeah, there's something down there under the floorboards. Some little sense that I'm not good enough, a little guilt, a little unforgiveness for somebody else. My buttons are pushed, right? I've been working for years, many years, to remove them very carefully. Just goes where it goes. Have you ever experienced that? Even today I might be spoken to us about. That is a place I want to live all the time. And it's so healing for my consciousness to remember that, to go back to that place of knowing that, in fact, I want to say Bruce Sanguin says, we should fail bravely. If we're not making mistakes in the world, we're not living a zesty life. It's all about living a zesty life. So I need to really be grounded in knowing it's bigger than all of that. And keep reminding myself that I'm whole, that I'm holy, that I am the spiritual magnificence of the divine right here, no matter how it shows up. Woo! Yeah, I like that too. Thank you very much. Yes. So moving on to now, what is ours to do to move and to rise up into the vision? Not only do we want to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, but we want to create a world that works for everyone. You got it. I'm going to share some things that I heard Dr. Ken say, and they were just so darn good that I took great notes. And they might be a little bit Sharonized, but he said this: we know where we are going. Touching 100 million lives, awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence to create a world that works for everyone. We are on the cusp of a great impulsion. Something great and wonderful is emerging. And then he said, it's like stepping on slippery ice. It's new, and sometimes we want to just back up into the known, to solid ground, right? It's almost like diving off a cliff in faith, that there's going to be a place to land. He said, we can't step backwards. We're stepping into a new consciousness. It is time for transformation. And get this, it's the little niggling doubts and judgment that come forward and have nothing to do with this new consciousness. So here's the challenge. What if the little niggling doubts come up? Or the judgment about what's happening or about others come up? Do you know how to cast that out? Come back next month and I'll have real details for you. I'm actually serious. But that is our work. He says we can't allow individual likes and dislikes to come forward. And here's the thing I want you to know. He does say this is bigger than exists in anyone's mind. And now there's a man named Leor Zorev who did an experiment. He's teaching crowd wisdom. He's teaching that the intelligence of the largest group you can get is better than what any one or small group could achieve or make. I was in a management class where we were being experienced the opportunity to experience synergy, which is a group decision-making process, right? Where everybody, it's a collaborative, it is consensus in a way, everybody has to buy into it. And so we did this little test of an experiential thing of what we would do if we had to solve a problem individually. And then we broke up in different groups, and everybody needed to be heard and everybody needed to be on board with what the decision was for solving the problem in the group. I want you to know, no individual was higher than the lowest group score. Together, we will make better decisions. Now, there was an experience they did where they brought to prove crowd wisdom, they brought a huge ox onto the stage. Just picture that, I have an ox right here. And I'm going to ask you 500 people to please guess the weight of the ox. 500 people. The lowest was 308, or 300 pounds, something like that. 308 pounds was the lowest guess. The highest guess was 1,000 pounds. Now here's the interesting thing. When you took the average of all the guesses, the average was 1,792. Guess how much the ox weighed?
1,000.
Pretty close. 1,795.
Wow.
3 pounds.
Wow.
And so, we're experiencing cloud wisdom in the new world of the internet. Because someone just asked me today about a real serious issue, and she's looking on the internet to find the wisdom that's out there. So the more contributions you can have to anything that's going on, to any direction you want to take, the greater the outcome will be, the better the direction will be. So it is really important to go back to what, maybe that was done. It's really important. Oh yeah, this is it. Back to my friend, Dr. Ken Gordon. He says, we cannot afford the luxury of denying anyone, no matter what, no matter how, no matter where. We have to embrace everything. The judgment that shows up is the small mind. It is not the new thought. It is the old thought. And we need a new one right now. I love that. Rumi says, half-heartedness doesn't reach into the majesty of God. You set out to find God, but then you keep stopping for long periods at mean-spirited roadhouses. Don't wait any longer. Dive in the ocean. Dive in the ocean. So here's what happens. When we begin to really cleanse the consciousness and really let go of seeing the other as separate from ourselves, because that is our work to do. I was walking a path at a Silmar many years ago. I was studying to be a minister, so it was more than 26 years ago, following some people, and I was listening to them gossip. And I started to judge them. And I swear to you, the hand of God whacked me upside the head and said, if you're going to be a minister, you must not judge these people. You must love them. You must love them. So, because what I know is, and you've heard this, Oprah says it, when we know better, we do better. based on each individual's consciousness. And that's been impressed by their family, by their culture, by our society, by their situation in life. Everyone is doing the best they can, and it might look horrible. I'm just going to tell you. I knew one of my instructors in school ministry had been a psychiatric nurse, and she worked in a place where crazy criminals were stored. And that's probably not the right way to say it. But what she said is, in every one of them, she could see beyond that and see that there was something that was still the spirit within. There is a wholeness and an untouched part of us that's, the word redeemed means to be made new. I never liked the word redemption. It sounded like I had to make up for my past mistakes, but that's not what it is at all. It's going back into that place of innocence and wholeness. That's what we're here for, is to discover that in ourselves, but also to begin to see it, and we pull it out of others when we see that in them. And when we listen to each other, their deepest concerns, their thoughts, and where they've come from, we begin to understand where they are now. And we can and do love them. And I know that each of us, in our family circles, in our work environment, or our careers, or in our joyful retirement, whatever it happens to be, are making a difference by looking for that spiritual magnificence in everyone we come in contact with. We are the gift that Spirit gives to the world. Just thank you for being here. And thank you for listening, because we can make such a difference if we come from that place of oneness, wholeness, deep connection to Spirit. I just want to share with you that there's some things that we see when we recognize someone who knows God. Wisdom teachers would say this about you. I say this about each one of you. You too, Frank. That we have a tendency toward selflessness, an expanded sense of self that includes an intimate connection with all life. That we have equanimity in difficult situations. In other words, we feel ourselves grounded in something because we're bigger, we're greater than that, right? And I'll get to that. I'll go back to my list. That these people, grounded in Spirit, show kindness and generosity. They show non-judgment toward others. They have a sense of inner tranquility and causeless joy. Joy is an attribute of Spirit, you know. We are, so joy is different than happiness. It isn't based on conditions. It is just something that exists that I can always tap into. If I tap into God, I'm joyful. It's simply, I'm in love and I'm joyful. That's it. When you're living this way, we're confident. We're confident in who we are and in the goodness of life. We are a healing presence, yes? We have the power to transform the world, and it is deeply, deeply in need of us. One of my favorite phrases is, when I'm in the middle of some kind of chaos or discord, is that I trust the process. We have seen a lot of chaos and discord. The place I need to stand in my faith right now today is that this is moving us to the greater yet to be. So that I can stand in the middle of that, continue to be true to myself, speak my truth without attachment, and have faith that we are bringing healing to the planet. Healing is being brought into my life, into communities, into our country, and into the world, even though it looks bad. And because our thoughts of today, our actual faith, belief, and expectations of today are going to be outpictured tomorrow, we are joining in a collective consciousness that is lifting and rising the consciousness of the planet, moving us into a greater wholeness. We live in amazing times, and still there's a lot of woundedness and pain out there that's causing more pain, but I believe that that is all moving us toward healing. And if I stand in that consciousness, it will happen. It will happen. This is what I'm called to do. So I'm going to share with you as I close something from Christian D. Larson, where he says what to promise yourself. You've all probably heard this, but I just love reading it, just like the things we started the service with today. Promise yourself To be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. I've heard that. Promise yourself to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet. That was actually in the affirmation we read today. Did you remember that? Promise yourself to make all your friends feel that there's something in them. It's about seeing the divine, right? To think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. Okay, I'm just telling you a story. There was this teacher that was called back to a classroom that the teacher was leaving, and it was the classroom for special children. They were children that were kind of below the standard and they needed extra help. So she came back, and I'll tell you, she worked miracles. Kids went in reading, they advanced grades in reading and math. They just, this was elementary school, they were just doing so well. And when the school year ended, the principal went to her and he said, "How did you do that? These kids were, had such challenges. How on earth did you get them so far along?" She said, "Oh, well, you gave me their IQs. I knew they were brilliant, so of course they did well." He said, "What do you mean? I told you their IQs. We gave you their IQs." She said, "Well, here's the list. Look at how high their IQs were. That is the list of their locker numbers." All I'm saying is our expectations make a difference. And when we go into a situation feeling nervous or expecting discord, guess what we get? I have to remind myself of that sometimes. I have to expect harmony and peace. I have to expect the divine to flow forth everywhere I go, right? Okay, back to Christian D. Larson. Promise yourself to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own. And that's what we're here for. To forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future. To wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile. Just seeing a smile, even if you don't smile back, releases neuropeptides that boost your immune system. You know that, right? All right. Promise yourself to give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others. I like that one. Promise yourself to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. Promise yourself to think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud words, but in great deeds. Promise yourself to live in the faith that the whole world is on your side. And now, if you'll just join me, let's just turn within for a moment. Opening heart and mind to the deep awareness of the presence of life, of love, the presence of that deep grounding peace, the presence of the dynamic activity of the universe always responding to my faith. And so in this place of knowing a oneness, that each and every person is an expression of that, I now see through the eyes of love. I abide in the heart of God, and the heart of God abides in me. I am moving forward in life in ways that touch and heal myself, my loved ones, my community, everyone I come in contact with. I am recognized, acknowledged, and supported in reaching my heart's desire. I am valuable. I have gifts to give, and I love giving them. I am the presence of joy. I am free to be me. I know and sense even more deeply into my sense of oneness with all of life and with others. And I am so blessed by knowing this truth. And so as I speak these words for myself and each person here, just join me in expanding that to your loved ones, to the members of this spiritual community, High Desert Center for Spiritual Living, to this local community. May there be peace. and harmony, healing and wholeness, and to the world, to life around the planet, that there is a rising up of the highest truth, a recognition of the oneness of all, the deep divinity within each and every person. In this I live and move and have my being and make my commitment. And so I just let go and release the words spoken here, knowing it's already a revelation of what is true for me and the world. And as I let go, I just let that divine wisdom handle the details. Knowing it is good, I declare it to be so. And will you join me as we affirm this together by saying, and so it is. Woohoo!
You want your notes? I'll slip her notes aside so I don't get confused. It is so refreshing to be reminded of who and what we aspire to be and are. That was a magnificent speech. It speaks to our time of healing. Life does knock you down once in a while, but the strength of your faith and your orientation to be living in a higher, more productive, more spiritual being helps you get back up more quickly, not to be stuck on the ground. Even if you have experienced some deep hurt, your orientation in spirit is what lifts you back up and causes you to move forward. Healing sometimes takes time for the hurt, but today, and each morning the sun rises, you have to move forward. For the past is the past, the future is ahead of you, but you only have today. It's now time for our giving and receiving. We are committed to keeping our central center open and the lights on, so please give or tithe what you can to that end. For now, we will not be passing the basket, COVID stuff, but there is an online option, and also in the center aisle, you'll see there's a basket there also. If it is easier for you to set up an auto pay, please head to our website and click on through to give the Give Plus app. Our website is on the base of your program there. Let's all stand and read aloud our Declaration of Affirmative Giving, located on the inside of your program on the left side. It's there on the bottom. You will join me, please. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless. It is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and substance of my supply. I joyfully contribute to the vision of the spiritual center, knowing that it returns to me, multiplied, abundantly.
You guys can sing along on this one too. This is God is my source. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything I need. Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for
practitioners up forward, please. A couple of you, yes, one. Oh, wait. Caught him off guard. The practitioners are here to serve you and your families with prayer to invite the impact of Spirit into your lives. You ask, and this is a direct conduit to a high voltage line. So when you ask, better be ready, because it'll happen. There is a prayer box in the garden room as you walk out on the right-hand side. You'll see a picture of our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. If you have anything that you would like prayer spoken on, please fill out one of our forms there. If you want to talk to a practitioner, check that box and leave your numbers. We can reach you. Okay, right now I'd like to repeat the affirmation for the day if you would join me again. It's on the inside colored portion here. In this moment, I release any worries and choose to be happy. Join me. In this moment, I release any worries and choose to be happy. Again. In this moment, I release any worries and choose to be happy. I'd like to thank practitioners for being the cornerstone spiritually of this family. These folks have many years' experience. They may be knocked down once in a while, but they get up really quick. And they're there to help you and show you how to do the same. At this time, it was the conclusion of our service for today, and if you'd like to stand, Mr. Emerson, if you would please rock us out with God Makes Me Want to Sing.